In 2011, Rick was 51 years old. He lived in Los Angeles and ran a business helping high school students apply to college. His job was to guide students and their parents through the stressful college admissions process. On the outside, he seemed like a helpful, hard-working man. But deep down, Rick wanted more. A lot more. One day, one of Rick's top students kept failing the SAT practice test. No matter how much he studied, the boy couldn't improve his score. His dream college felt out of reach. And that's when Rick had an idea that would change everything. What if, instead of helping students study harder, he just helped them cheat? So Rick paid off a man who worked at the SAT test center. This man secretly corrected the students' answers after the test was done. In the end, the student got a perfect score. He was accepted into a top university. Just like that, Rick saw how easy it was. And more importantly, how powerful it made him feel. He realized he could turn this trick into a business. And not just any business, a secret, illegal one that rich families would pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for. That's how the scam began. Rick started doing it again. And again. And again. More and more wealthy parents came to him with one simple request. Can you help my kid get into a top school, even if they're not smart enough? And Rick said yes. For a price. Sometimes, he helped students cheat on their SAT or ACT exams. Other times, he bribed college coaches or school officials to pretend these students were athletes, even if they had never played the sport. He charged up to $500,000 per child. The rich parents didn't care. To them, it was an investment, and Rick made the whole thing look professional. He created a fake charity to hide the money. That way, parents could write the payments off on their taxes. It was all a lie, but it looked clean on paper. Over time, Rick built up a huge list of clients. Many were celebrities, business owners, or CEOs, and they were all paying him to cheat the system. That's when Lori Loughlin and her husband Mossimo Giannulli came into the picture. Lori Loughlin was a famous actress. Most people knew her as Aunt Becky from the hit TV show Full House. Her husband, Mossimo, was a rich fashion designer with his own clothing line sold at Target. They had 2 daughters. One of them, Olivia Jade, was already a star in her own way. She was a social media influencer with millions of followers on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. She worked with big beauty brands and even had her own makeup line. But despite her success, her parents still wanted her to go to college. Not just any college. They wanted both daughters to attend USC, a top private university in Los Angeles. The only problem? Their daughters had never played sports, and their grades weren't enough to guarantee admission. So Lori and Mossimo turned to Rick Singer. He told them he could get both girls into USC, as long as they agreed to pretend they were athletes. Specifically, rowing athletes. Now, rowing is a sport where athletes race in boats by paddling together. USC gives special preference to talented athletes when they apply, especially in rowing, which doesn't get much attention. So Lori and Mossimo agreed. Rick charged them $500,000. Then, they staged fake photos of their daughters on rowing machines. The pictures looked silly and fake, but Rick sent them to USC coaches anyway. They claimed the girls were skilled coxswains, rowing team leaders. It worked. Both daughters were accepted into USC. But the truth was, neither girl had ever touched a rowing boat. Lori Loughlin wasn't the only celebrity caught in Rick's scam. Felicity Huffman, another famous actress known for her role on Desperate Housewives, also paid Rick. She gave him $15,000 to help her daughter cheat on the SAT. The daughter's test was secretly corrected by a proctor after she completed it. That worked too. Her daughter's score went up by hundreds of points. Felicity even planned to do the same thing for her second child. By 2018, Rick had helped hundreds of wealthy families. His scam had collected over $25 million in bribes. Rick himself had made around $15 million. He was living large, and no one had caught him. Yet, in 2018, the FBI was investigating a completely different case, a business executive involved in fraud. While questioning the man, the FBI found out something strange. He had paid $450,000 to a Yale soccer coach to get his daughter admitted. That sounded very illegal. So the FBI followed the trail. They arrested the Yale coach, and the coach flipped. He told the FBI everything. About Rick, about the scam, about the bribes. That's when the FBI decided to go deeper. They got the coach to wear a wire and secretly record a meeting with Rick. And in that meeting, Rick openly talked about the whole scam. He didn't know he was being recorded. That's all the FBI needed. The FBI arrested Rick Singer. But they didn't stop there. The agent sat him down, laid everything out, and gave him a choice. Either he could face the full weight of the law alone, or he could help bring down everyone else involved in his scheme. They looked him straight in the eye and said, "If you want a lighter sentence, you're going to help us catch everyone involved." And just like that, Rick flipped. He agreed to cooperate with the investigation, fully and completely. He became their insider, the key to unlocking a tangled web of lies, money, and privilege. With the FBI's help, Rick began making calls. Not just one or two. He called his clients one by one. People he had worked with for years. People who trusted him. On the surface, the conversation seemed ordinary. But Rick was wearing a wire. Every word was being recorded. Every pause, every detail, captured with precision. And slowly, the clients started talking. They mentioned the payments, how much they had transferred, how they disguised the money as donations. They talked about the fake athletic profiles Rick helped create, pictures of their kids posing as rowers, tennis players, or pole vaulters, even though they had never competed in those sports. They discussed the cheating, how SAT and ACT test answers would change, how proctors were bribed, how everything had been carefully planned behind closed doors. The FBI didn't just have one confession. They had a growing pile of them. These weren't guesses or assumptions. These were direct conversations, in the client's own voices, admitting what they had done. And among the people Rick called were some very big names. Lori Loughlin and Mossimo Giannulli, the celebrity couple who had paid to get their daughters into college. Felicity Huffman, the award-winning actress who had quietly arranged for her daughter's test scores to be fixed. One by one, the evidence stacked up against them. Eventually, the authorities reached out to Lori and Mossimo. There were no flashing lights, no police raids, no dramatic arrests in public. Instead, the couple quietly turned themselves in. But by then, it didn't matter how they showed up. The damage was done. Their names were all over the news. Their reputations were in freefall. And the world now knew that behind the perfect image of fame and success was a carefully hidden lie, one that was finally coming to light. In 2020, after months of legal battles and media coverage, Lori Loughlin and Mossimo Giannulli finally accepted plea deals. They had fought the charges for a while, but in the end, they folded. Lori, once known as a sweet, smiling face of Hallmark movies and Aunt Becky on Full House, was sentenced to 2 months in prison. 2 months behind bars for her role in the scandal that had shaken the entire nation. Mossimo, her husband and a successful fashion designer, got a harsher punishment, 5 months in prison. His sentence was more than double Lori's. The courts made it clear that both of them had played a serious part in the fraud. Felicity Huffman, who had quickly admitted to her actions and cooperated early on, received 14 days in prison. Just 2 weeks, but it was still a major fall from grace for the Emmy-winning actress. And then there was Rick Singer, the man at the center of it all, the mastermind, the orchestrator. He had helped dozens of families cheat the system. And for that, he was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. But the consequences weren't just legal, they were personal. Lori lost her roles on the Hallmark Channel. Her long-standing relationship with the network was gone in an instant. She was also cut from the Full House reboot, the show that had made her a household name. Her image was no longer welcome in family-friendly entertainment. Her family's reputation? Completely shattered. They went from Hollywood royalty to symbols of privilege and scandal almost overnight. And while their daughters, Olivia Jade and her sister, weren't charged with any crimes, they didn't escape the fallout. Both of them withdrew from USC shortly after the story broke. The backlash was intense, and staying at the university had become impossible. Then, an old clip of Olivia resurfaced online. A video from her YouTube channel, before the scandal, where she casually said, "I don't really care about school. I just want the college experience, game days and parties." That one sentence hit a nerve. It went viral, and fast. People weren't just angry at her, they were angry at what she represented. At a system that let wealth and connections push others aside. at the idea that money could buy opportunities that millions of hardworking students would never get. It wasn't just a scandal anymore. It was a symbol of something bigger, something broken, and the world was paying attention. In total, over 50 people were charged in the college admission scandal. Some were celebrities. Some were business leaders. Many were just rich parents who wanted to buy success for their kids. But the message was clear. Cheating the system, even if you're rich or famous, comes with consequences. Rick's scam, later called Operation Varsity Blues, became one of the biggest college fraud cases in U.S. history. It showed the world how broken and unfair the system could be. And for people like Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman, it was a painful reminder that fame can't protect you from the truth. And that's a story of how the college admission scandal took down some of Hollywood's biggest names. What do you think about this whole situation? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more crazy stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.